How come you have to insist so insistently? How come you have to keep telling yourself that you know? How come there is always a battle to prove that you're right? The reason there's a battle to prove that you're right is because you're wrong. Aren't you delighted at the revelation of that? Don't you see that that is indeed the doorway to where you don't have to fight anymore? You can simply admit this is what you've been battling all your life. And then you know what you have to do to get rid of the battle? Let me tell you, so simple. You just stop fighting. You know, the way to stop a war is for both sides just stop fighting, right? What else? Never mind the peace treaties, never mind the discussions, never mind reduction in armaments. Just stop fighting right now. Oh, look at the battle you have over giving up the battle, right? I know what you're saying. I know what your unconscious thoughts are. Should I tell you what they are? What do I do with myself if I don't have something to fight? Will I be able to stand a peaceful life? What will it be like? What will it be like without me being me? For heaven's sake, what is it like you being you? Not very pleasant, is it? No enjoyment at all, no quietness, no self-command, no going through your day knowing what you're doing and knowing that nothing can touch you. The life of a soldier on a battlefield is a pretty perilous place. It's a nice place to get hurt all the time if you want to stay out there. We're offering you a spiritual alternative, not man's alternative. It's merely a switch from one battleground to another, but an alternative where you leave the battleground altogether. There you are, the soldier out there firing at others and being fired at and being wounded. And all those sharp weapons out there. But take a soldier who suddenly realizes where he is and realizes that he doesn't want anything to do with the insanity of the world. He can walk off the battlefield if he wants, can't he? You know what happens to a soldier who walks off the battlefield? We've got an illustration going here. He gets punished, doesn't he, for desertion? You start deserting the battlefield of this sick society. You start to walk off that battlefield and watch how you be accused of something. Watch how you'll be called a deserter from society's sanity and right ways. Well, I better tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Who would you say has full authority in this universe? God or man? Who would you say has right views, has sanity, has true wisdom, truth or society? Which? Which are you going to obey from now on? You know what you've obeyed up to this time. You obeyed all the madness of the machine guns and the bayonets and the rifles and the hand grenades of society in which they told you that you're here to fight. And you do your part of fighting and hating. If you don't hate someone else, we'll hate you. Can you imagine what society is telling you to do? Can you imagine a truly decent, good, spiritual human being? Can you imagine him wanting anything to do with the hurting of society. Can you imagine him wanting to get tough with anyone? You see, you get tough if you think it's necessary. If you think there's something to defend. There's nothing to defend. Nothing at all. You have nothing to defend whatever except your delusions. Anytime you defend anything, you're defending your sickness and nothing else. Anytime you get self-righteous, you're being righteous over nothing, over a zero. But you think that nothing is something, and so you fight for it. And then you have the nerve to complain when you get wounded. If you weren't on society's mad battlefield, you wouldn't get hurt at all, would you? So whose fault is it if you cry, if you scream, if you complain, if you feel persecuted? Shall I tell you a characteristic of sanity? A sane man or woman never feels persecuted at all. Never feels persecuted, never feels left out, never feels hurt by anyone or anything. I'm telling you how a sane human being operates. Of course, you don't know much about that, but I'm introducing it to you. So one day maybe you'll understand by personal experience what it means to have such a goodness inside of you. You can't go along with the badness of yourself anymore, therefore not along with the badness of the world out there. This is a delightful experience if you go that far. Go all the way with it, and you'll understand what I'm talking about from yourself, not just from the talk that you're being given. Now, to reach this point where you understand that to be on the battlefield and trying to win over someone else, that to be on the battlefield at all is to be defeated. There's no such thing as victory out there among all the guns and the bombs. There's only defeat for everyone out there, both sides. Starting from the top to the bottom, to the generals down to the buck privates, there's nothing but loss, defeat, pain, wounded, and so on. If you understand this, begin to understand that you can't win out there, you will have an experience that will come to you. It will be progression toward your leaving the battlefield and being on top of that peaceful hill where you can look down and understand the madness of all those armies and the leaders and everyone striking out at each other. Let's see if I can illustrate a stage that you have to go through. You're not there yet, but you can start it. Here's a man, let's say, who is tired of the big town and all its noisy cars and the smog and the fierce competition, the mad competition. So he decides to go out into the countryside to a little cabin. So he goes out and he finds a little place out in the pretty woods and hills. He stays there for a couple days. After 2 days, he looks out the window, he hears a racket out there, and he looks out and he gasps in dismay. What is happening is that all the bulldozers are out there now, clearing away the pretty greenery and covering up